Imagine waking up tomorrow and every piece of clothing you own has vanished. No shoes, no jacket, nothing. Most of us would panic immediately. But here's the thing, for the first several million years of human existence, that was just Tuesday. So what changed? When did we go from completely fine with being naked to absolutely not leaving the house without a shirt? The answer involves lice, an ice age, and one of the most underrated decisions in all of human history. Let's go back, way back. About 300,000 years ago, your ancestors were walking around with basically no body hair compared to other primates, and that fact alone is a massive clue. See, most animals that live in warm climates have very little fur. Think elephants, hippos, naked mole rats. Humans lost most of their body hair probably because we were overheating. Running long distances under the African sun to hunt animals is brutal work. Less hair means better cooling. It was a survival upgrade. But here's where it gets interesting. Losing your fur is great in a hot savanna. It is a serious problem the moment the temperature drops, and the temperature dropped a lot during the ice ages. Multiple times. So, at some point, some very clever human looked at a dead animal and thought, that pelt is doing something mine isn't. That's the intuitive story. The cold made us do it, and it's probably partly true. But scientists have actually found a sneaky little piece of biological evidence that tells us something more specific. And that evidence is lice. You heard that right. Lice solved this mystery. Here's the thing about lice. The kind that lives in your hair and the kind that lives in your clothing are different species. They diverged from a common ancestor at some point in history. And by studying the DNA of body lice, scientists can estimate roughly when clothing lice first appeared as a separate species. That gives us a date for when humans started wearing clothes regularly enough for lice to evolve specifically to live in them. The answer: somewhere between 100,000 and 170,000 years ago, right in the middle of a particularly brutal cold period. That's not a coincidence. Now think about what this means. At that moment, some human somewhere sat down with an animal skin, figured out how to attach it to their body, and survived a winter they would not have survived naked. And then they taught someone else, and that person taught someone else. One idea, passed forward through generations, until eventually you're standing in a store debating whether to buy the gray hoodie or the navy one. But here's what really blows my mind. Clothing wasn't just about warmth. Once humans had it, it started doing something much more powerful. It started carrying meaning. The oldest known sewn clothing is around 30,000 years old. By that point, humans weren't just throwing pelts over their shoulders, they were cutting pieces, stitching them together, shaping garments deliberately. That takes planning. That takes craft. That takes the very human desire to make something that didn't have to be beautiful. Beautiful anyway. And then something happened that changed everything again. About 10,000 years ago, humans figured out how to grow plants and keep animals instead of chasing them. The agricultural revolution. And with farming came something remarkable: surplus. Extra food meant more time. More time meant specialization. And one of the things humans specialized in was making fabric: linen from flax plants, wool from sheep. Later, silk from silkworms in China, cotton from plants in India and the Americas. Suddenly, clothing wasn't just something you wore, it was something you traded, something that showed what family you came from, what god you followed, what rank you held in a society. A Roman senator wore a toga with a purple stripe because purple dye was extraordinarily expensive. One color on one piece of fabric said everything about your power and your wealth. Kings and emperors across the world controlled who was allowed to wear certain colors. In feudal Japan, specific patterns were reserved for specific classes. In medieval Europe, you could actually be fined for wearing the wrong fabric if you were the wrong social rank. Clothing became a language, and humans have never stopped speaking it. Think about what you're wearing right now. There is a good chance it tells a story. The brand on your sneakers, the cut of your jeans, whether you're dressed up or dressed down, we all read each other's clothes constantly, instinctively, without even realizing we're doing it. We started covering ourselves to survive the cold. But somewhere along the way, we turned survival gear into identity, into art, into one of the most complex social signals our species has ever created. All of it. Because one day, a long time ago, someone was cold, and a dead animal happened to be nearby. Not a bad origin story for fashion.